Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jack, and I want to welcome you to the JTB podcast, aka Jack Talks Back. And this is episode 2. If you missed out on episode 1, I definitely recommend go watching it and listening to it. In the very beginning, there's a lot of repeated words, and my buddy Joe calls that word vomit. It's just, words that you're trying to put together at the same exact time. If you don't understand what I mean, definitely go check it out, and you'll definitely maybe get a kick out of it. Well, in this podcast, I really want to talk to the people who want to talk back on a lot of things, and they're scared to really speak their mind because they're scared that they're going to lose somebody, possibly as a loved one or anything like that. But, there's a lot of people out there that really, I feel like, that are thinking the same exact thing I'm thinking of a lot of things. And I believe in this world, who have listened to a lot of things and seen a lot of things and felt a lot of things, then there's a lot of, we can really push that out to people and they can learn from our mistakes. I feel like we have to kind of go back to like the school aspect and raising your hand and not be afraid to ask a dumb question because we can really learn from those things, and you'll find the right answer eventually if you keep on asking the questions. And even when you keep on failing, I feel like a lot of people are scared to fail or even scared or willing to try something that they think that they want to do because, it could be a lot of money to do something or it could just be a lot of time and they probably don't want to go through it and see what happens. But if we all can do that, then I think this podcast can be a lot of fun. So so don't be afraid to even call me out because I'm going to say a lot of things that like a lot of people are going to question and I'm probably going to get some things wrong. And I appreciate for the people who do call me out because, I want to learn from it. I want to learn from the things I said wrong and learn from the things I did wrong. And I really believe that there's a lot of people who really see the same exact thing. So we can't really be afraid to speak our minds. That's the biggest thing. I'm not afraid to really lose anybody anymore. I felt like I already lost the people who are, that meant the most to me, if that makes sense. But at the same exact time, we can't really focus on the past because, that's what will last. That's a fish quote right there. And it's totally true. We really all should come together and flock together and really see ourselves like come together as a country again. Look at the bird who is this country. If you see a bald eagle, that's the reason why it's like on the coins and on the dollars, on some of them, and God we trust. So we can focus on the morals of God, then focus on the proper laws, that our founding fathers wrote and died for and everything, then I think we can really all come together again. I feel like we shouldn't have so many laws of things that are going to be restricting us, and especially restricting speech. Because that's the crazy thing right there, like of how there's a lot of censorship out there, and I don't think there should be a lot of censorship. I think a lot of people should speak their minds, and even if they're an asshole, let them be an asshole, just so we can learn from them. I do talk about that a lot in my third podcast. It's kind of funny because I already recorded the second podcast of this one, but when I went back to go look at it and listen to it, it's hilarious because the audio was terrible, and I want to make sure this sounds really good. That's the hardest thing, and everything's a learning process, and maybe that's a message from God telling me, oh, you need to do this again. This is not really of what you're really trying to branch out and show people. So that's just my opinion. But going back to the bald eagle, bald eagles are probably one of the most beautiful birds and one of the best hunters out there. And if a bald eagle is about to die and when it gets very old, it has two decisions. It's either, you die or you have to go break off your beak and scratch off your nails and let them grow back stronger so you can be a stronger person. So I feel like that's what we really have to do is like break off a lot of things that happen in our lives and accept those things and accept the people who did some things wrong in our eyes, but still forgive them. And just forget about the past of those things but don't forget the event, That's why I really talk about my first podcast, and I think you should really go back and listen to it. So it's really interesting time that we're living in because, I'm still growing every single day. that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of us are still growing, and there's a lot of things that we need to say, and can't be afraid to like leave a comment on a video. I think AI is really manipulating a lot of people, especially like a lot of the bots on social media, because you don't even know who is real or not. And even a lot, like, it's crazy. I get these random followers of these girls, and I know that they're fake. Like someone who looks to be that good looking, and they have like no followers, but they have like 1,000 posts. Yeah, that kind of catches my eye a little bit. Even with like these dating apps nowadays, I think, they put bots on there, they leave accounts on there, they match with you, and then they don't even respond on the first message. So I think these dating apps really know what they're doing of how to keep people on there and just to keep people on their phones. And that's so crazy to me. I think we really need to get off our phones and really go out and branch out to a lot of people and just talk to people. Learn from them. Like, I love talking to people, and that's why I want to start this podcast. And I know a lot of people are probably shocked that I'm doing this all by myself and talking all by myself, but I'm not afraid to talk by myself anymore. I think that some people do need to talk a lot by themselves. Like, if you look at House, from that TV show, the doctor show called House, the guy always talked out loud. Then sometimes you have to put some things on a board to really put everything together, because you can drive yourself insane and have things that make sense in your head. But once you put it on a board, or, there is that theory of string theory, but there's a lot of things I don't know about the string theory. I heard some things, but I don't know. I can't really talk about it. But just by putting things together, I feel like that's how we can make a lot of things make sense. And I think a lot of the answers are there, but I think a lot of people are just making up their answers and trying to get people to kind of go their way without really explaining what it all is. Like I definitely see, especially with the election stuff, with the people who they're voting for, they don't even know what they're even voting for. They can't tell you about why you want to vote for Kamala Harris. I think that's like the biggest thing, because a lot of people just want to vote for Kamala because they don't want Trump in office, because they think the world's going to go on fire. Sorry about that. That's my alarm and everything. I probably should turn that off. Because it's just going to keep on going off. But I feel like a lot of people don't even know what they're even voting for in life, and looking at the policies and looking at the accomplishments that a person has done. I don't think we should be voting a person in just to vote against somebody just because the way how the media portrays them. I think the media doesn't even know what they're even talking about, because they're all scripted. I do have some notes, but at the same time, I'm all over the place, and I'm always going to be all over the place. And I'm probably going to talk about that in my next podcast too. You should definitely watch it. I think it's going to be really good, because I notice every single time when I talk, I catch things that I know I repeat, and I want to get things out more clearly. And I feel like that's what a lot of people need to do more, is, just get things out so things just really make sense to them and in their own eyes, and for other people to kind of learn from it also. So I really want everyone to really start talking back, but also like really listening of what's going on, and not really getting so offensive. A lot of people get offensive when they hear the truth about things, and it's crazy, because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of the outcome of that, because they want to do their own thing, and eventually, that their own thing never really works out, and it kind of just backfires on them, and then they're really alone. I've been there before. I've been very one-sided, and I don't want to be one-sided anymore. I really want to listen to everybody. And on the next podcast, I really talk about balance, and I hope you listen to it, because there's a lot of good value points there, and I don't want to tell you too much about it because I already recorded it. So it's kind of hard not to talk about it. And I'm very proud of myself for, letting people know that they're not alone. I think that's like the biggest thing, when people think they're a lonely bird out there, and at the same exact time, there's a lot more other birds that think the same exact thing as you do. So I think we really need to all flock together and just really find each other. I think we definitely need to find the people who we want to hang out with in life, because you are who you hang out with. And I know that saying has been repeated so many times in life, but it's totally true. If a person is doing something right and, being successful, I think you can learn something from it. Like I heard before, like if you sit at a table, like say my dad's a builder. He's a general contractor from Virginia Beach. And whenever I used to sit at his meetings or listen to him on the phone, I'm going to learn about building. I'm going to learn about like how things are being put together and everything. And I feel like we have to put ourselves out there. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. And that's why I think podcasts are amazing, because they're not like the news that just tells you the one segment and they're done and they move on to the next and they come right back to it and repeat themselves. So they're just kind of programming you with the same exact thing instead of really going through everything. That's why I think podcast is going to really take over the media, because you really see the real person out of it. And I hope a lot of people see that kind of out of me, because I want to better myself. I want to see a lot of people better themselves also. And that's just what's so incredible of this type of world that, we're living in now, because you can really do whatever you want and how you want. Like, you can literally do whatever you want, like it's just up to you if you really want to do it, and you just have to find a way. You might feel like you have restrictions out there, but there's a start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. You can't just look at your house and say like, boom, it's clean. I think that's like the biggest thing. I can't just look at the dishes and throw them all in there in the dishwasher all at the same exact time, or throw them in there and not rinse everything off. You have to do things to prepare things in life. And I think that's like the biggest thing. I think we really have to get creative with our lives and not really be so one-sided. Like you can be one-sided on certain things and have a great drive, but then you have to learn from everything. You can't run up a ladder. My dad always said you cannot run up a ladder. And if you know what that means, like if you run up a ladder, some people might be able to do it, but most people, they're probably going to skip a step and they fall right down. But when they start climbing it up again, they're going to know where that step was and they learn from it. That's why I love rock climbing. You learn so much from rock climbing. Anyone can climb a straight wall, but there's maneuvers. Every rock is a different level. And I think that's where we're at in life right now. We're at a different level in life, and I think we can really move on to the next level. And I really believe we can evolve. I feel like we're like a bird that doesn't know how to fly yet, or doesn't know how to hatch, or knows how to grow their feathers and fly. I think that's like the biggest thing. And it's absolutely incredible, because I believe a lot of people can fly, and it just depends who's teaching you. Like some people can teach you how to fly. I think that's why it's amazing to have a dad in life. And if you don't have a dad, I'm really sorry, but there are plenty of ways for you to get a good father figure and not be afraid to ask for a mentor. I believe that's what the Bible is there for, because, there are so many life lessons in there, people who have done wrong and then they learn to be right. And that's what like God was able to do with all these people. It's crazy. I love it a lot, and I really appreciate it, because I think a lot of people can really pick up that book and really see a lot of positive things. And if you judge a book by its cover and saying that book is dumb, then, obviously you haven't read the book or haven't even read one page. I have not read the whole Bible. I read a lot in it, but there's a lot more I need to read. I do watch a lot of videos on it and listen to a lot of pastors, and there's a lot of great ones out there. There's a lot of things, and I feel like it just starts with listening. That's really it, and accepting that you have to listen to things first before you're able to like really talk back. It's like you have to learn to crawl first, to walk, to run. And I think that's where we're at in our lives. We have to really go back to the adolescence and learn to crawl. And I think that's totally true. You know what I mean? You have to start from the bottom and work your way up to the top. And if you fall back down, then you know how to get back up again. That's why I really like skateboarding. And I'm not the best at it, but I was really good at falling and not being afraid to get back up. I think that was like one of the biggest things. And when I saw a lot of skateboarders, like, record themselves and look back on the footing and the things that they did wrong, because most of the time they were just playing a game of hop off. They're just hopping off the board. And once they realize that board still goes, it doesn't flip or anything like that, but it still rolls. You learn to stay on that board because you're not really going to fall. It's just you hopping, it's you jumping off without you even finishing out the ride. But that's just my opinion, and I think that's one of the greatest things I ever learned in life from skating with my friends. I'm very fortunate that a lot of my friends love to skate with me, even when I'm not that good, and it's just so fun to watch them because I critique on things what they're doing. I see something that they're not seeing because we're not recording things, and I think they really appreciate that. And it's crazy because none of them got mad at me for saying the things. And that's why I'm very fortunate to have some really amazing friends, because they want to see me succeed, not just in this, but in life. And I want them to do the same exact thing. I think you have to have friends, be able to ask for help and ask for real advice of what things mean. I'm very fortunate to have people who listen to this podcast and gave me some really good feedback. Like my buddy Adam, he wrote notes down of things I was saying. And it's really funny because I might say things that you don't know about, and it might think oh, this guy's got to be wrong. He's got no credibility or anything like that. And I might not have any credibility, but I have read a lot of things. I've focused on a lot of things on health because I feel like that's what we really should be focusing on the most, is really ourselves and what we're putting in our bodies and what it's doing to our bodies. I saw this amazing rat test of this one rat who ate a lot of trans fats and probably really bad seed oils and everything like that, compared to a rat who ate completely lean, all healthy foods. And they put the two rats in the water, and there's a platform in the center of the water. One rat was lost, the one that had a whole bunch of inflammation in the body and couldn't find its way to the center. Then you put the healthy rat in there, and it found the center right away. So I really believe it really starts with our bodies. I think it's really depends what we put in our bodies. And I think that goes to the world and the whole entire universe. Whatever we put in, is what we're going to get out of it. So there's that. And he also mentioned too that when I mentioned about Frankenstein, if you listen back to the first episode, I should not have referenced that, but then I learned from it because he told me that Frankenstein was the scientist and not the monster. And that monster was just misunderstood. No one really knew who really could understand him. And I feel like there's a lot of people right now that they feel misunderstood, and they're afraid to ask for help. And I believe that we can really help everybody by just really being there. And just not being afraid, to talk back. We need hecklers in our life and just learn from it. That's why I like watching this one channel called The Y Files on YouTube. It's an amazing channel. I'm a very big conspiracy theorist. I like to think of a lot of things, but is a conspiracy really a conspiracy when the facts come out about it 6 months later? But they go in a deep dive about everything. And that's what's so amazing about them, because they're not afraid to speak out of what they learned and believed in, and they debunk a lot of things, and I think that's what's so great about it, because there are things that you can learn from things that are not even true, and that's what's so incredible. But definitely check out them. They are an amazing channel. I love them a lot. And like I said, we need hecklers out there. And that's what's so great about comedy. If you listen to comedians, that's what's so crazy about comedians. You go up on a stage and you're not afraid to speak out of what you're thinking, and you're trying to make people laugh. And that's what's so incredible about laughter is an emotion. And when people laugh, it creates a memory, I feel like, and you're never going to forget it because it's a feeling that it's hard to find. I talked to someone at the bar yesterday when I was with my dad eating wings. This guy was like, I hate music. I hate it so much because I mentioned fish and he was talking about antelopes and how antelopes are like the fastest animal. And I was like, huh. I said, yeah, you ever heard of that song called Run Like an Antelope from Fish? And boom, he wrote me off so fast. But maybe he had a bad experience with listening to music. Maybe he listened to a lot of sad songs. And, I think there's a lot of learning lessons from sad songs because, those people went through something. But that's just my opinion. But you should never judge something from just without even hearing them. It's hilarious. Some people just say, they talk bad about fish because they don't know who they are. Well, I always say, hey, well, you should go see them first before you just judge them off just listening to them online because it's hard to understand them if you don't hear them in front of you. I think that's the same exact thing with this. I'm going to be completely different when I have someone else in front of me when I talk to them. So that's going to be really exciting because then you're going to see a complete other side of me also, especially if you meet me in person. I'm a very big caring person. I want everyone to do things right, but at the same exact time, you can't do everything right all the time. We don't live in a perfect world, and we can't live in a perfect world. That's I think, the reason why God didn't create all perfect people. And that's why not all people go to heaven, because if we went to if everyone was perfect, or if everyone went to heaven, people would have something on their shirt that would show people why they went to heaven. I don't think that's what it's about. I don't think there's rankings of reasons why people should go to heaven. I think there's only one real way and one true way, and that's just believing in God and believing that Jesus came down and died for us to show people the truth and the light of really what is out there, to really question things and to be able to talk back on things that do not make any sense. A lot of people manipulated the laws of the Bible and everything just for them to take advantage of people, to govern them, and also as a money grab. I see a lot of things these days as a money grab, just to make money off them. So I don't want this to be a money grab. If you see me somehow be successful, you're definitely going to be seeing me doing a lot for the community and really helping out a lot of people, because I really think whatever I get is I really have to put back as much as I can. You know what I mean? We do have to survive, and I think this is surviving right now, to letting people know that it's okay to branch out and just speak. Not just keep everything in your mind. I think that's the real emo out of me. I used to be very emo in a lot of ways. And you just can't be afraid to be who you are. I feel like if you lie and tell a lot of stories, I used to tell a lot of stories when I was a kid because I always was trying to get attention. But then, you can only keep up with it so long. Then if you live with it, then you live with it. You have to die with it. And then you're not really who you are, and that person's fell in love with the wrong person. They want to fall in love with the person who they know. And I think that's what's so incredible about being honest with yourself and being honest with others. Because if they see that you care, when a coach yells at you in sports, they're not just yelling at you, they're yelling at you to get better. And so we have to look at things a little bit of a different way. So that's just what I see right now and how I believe that we can get better at a lot of things. And so that's really what I really want to talk about on this podcast. There's a lot of podcasts out there I learn from. I'll give you a couple amazing ones that you should definitely check out and just see what you can learn from it. There's this one called Valuetainment with Patrick Bet-David. They have these amazing guys on there also. There's Vinny, there's Adam, and there's Tom. And it's crazy. You can't just have one person, speaking to you. When you see so many, and there's a lot of arguments on there, and that's the point of it. Pat loves to see arguments because at the very end of the day, they can settle on it. They might not both agree on it, but they can still be civil with each other and just have fun with life. It's not like I used to argue with my friends all the time, especially with my buddy Cole, especially when I got older, because I wanted to show him that I was kind of equal to him at the same exact time. But you should not be talking a lot, especially when you're drinking, and try to prove a point when you're drinking. There's a time and place for a lot of things, and there's not a time and place for you to try to prove yourself right when you're drinking. That's why you should never talk about politics or religion, because I think there's a lot of value in all religions that we all can learn from. I really believe in that. I think that's what's so amazing about these beliefs, because it just, I don't know, there's a lot of things, That's just what I really see, and how we can really better ourselves at the end of the day. There's no point of having arguments all the time and going to bed mad. That's just not the way how we should really look at things in life. We really should just learn how to grow a flower. Learn how to grow things and just learn from everything. So that's what this podcast is really going to be about. It's just about listening to other people. It doesn't even matter what it is. That's just amazing. There's a lot of other podcasters that are creating content, like Ninjas Are Butterflies. They're actually in Florida also. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I just moved here from Virginia Beach last May. And it's so cool seeing these guys start a channel, because they're kind of like the Y-Files. They're bringing up things that, that caught their interest in life. And if you knew me when I was a little kid, I was homeschooled. Well, I went to a Christian school up to 6th grade. So 6th and 7th grade, I was homeschooled. Then I went to a public school. And when I was homeschooled for 2 years, I was probably not doing most of my work. I pretty much cheated and gave myself a lot of the right answers, because I had a parent-teacher code that I got from my mom, and made it look like I was doing my work, but I was really just watching a lot of archaeology stuff. I was very fascinated in history of especially the Egyptian times, and the Atlanteans of the city of Atlantis with Pluto and Socrates, and think about what happened to those things. I think the writing is on the wall for everything, especially Göbekli Tepe. If you look at the falling of Göbekli Tepe, we might not know the actual falling, but you do see on the walls when they're starting to mix people with humans of not really who they are. I think that's the biggest thing right now, is we just really need to figure out really who we are without really trying to force ourselves of being something that we're not, if that makes sense. So I do ramble a lot, and I do jump around everywhere. It's kind of hard to stay on topic, but that's what I'm learning right now, is kind of stay on topic, and it's hard. I definitely do when I'm talking to somebody, because you're both interacting on the similar thing that you see. So it's just funny, because when I was talking to my buddy Adam, and I said I never would have thought I could talk for 45 minutes by myself. And I talk to him all the time on the phone. I'm very fortunate to have a friend that, answers the phone and not afraid to call me and not to tell me the truth about these things. And he did say, you might not want to get into politics and religion so much, because, some people might not like it. But at the same exact time, you can't be afraid of the things that people don't like, because you have to be who you are. I'm very big into Christianity, and the more you watch this podcast, the more you hear me speak, I'm going to speak the gospel as much as I can, because I want everyone to really have a really understanding of what they don't know. That's just what's so incredible. A lot of people want to think that they are their own God, and they think there's nothing bigger than them. But, have you ever met Shaquille O'Neal? That's one of the biggest humans I've ever seen. I know that there's always someone bigger than me. And I think that we have to really have the understanding that, we are not this creator of the universe or anything like that. And this universe is still expanding and still growing. And so that's pretty much what I really believe in. And you could have a different view, and I would love to hear your view, and I'll hear you out. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely fascinating in my eyes that, people have different views, and they could be right or they're wrong, and you can just learn from them. Like, I learned a lot from when I was a kid because I was very annoying in my eyes because I was always trying to get attention from others because my parents were always arguing. So my parents were the best parents growing up, and they still are the best parents because they're not afraid to speak their minds, but at the same time, like, they're learning from me also. So when I was saying I was annoying, I just was always trying to kind of ask for help. Trying to be out of my house and not be around being around the arguing all the time. Then I found my friends. I found the bestest friends. Like, I can say a few of them right now, and like my buddy Josh, my buddy Ross, my buddy Telly, my buddy Cole, Luke, just everybody who were always there for me. And there's a lot more people out there. And if it wasn't for me going to work at a restaurant to get away from those things and learn to work hard and communicating with people who just come from everywhere, you never know who's going to come work in that restaurant with you, and it's so fun. I used to talk to the cook Jesse every single day, and I used to ask him to tell me a story all the time. And I would be so slow, I would dishwash every Wednesday. I was a busser, but then I used to dishwash every Wednesday, and I would be so slow because I wanted to make sure everything was all clean, and especially the spatulas. I think that was like the biggest thing. Scrubbing those things is, that grease and buildup is there, but you can get it clean, but it might not all be off. It goes in the middle, but at least you can clean it as much as you can. So I'm very fortunate of learning from Jesse and him telling me the funniest stories because, like I said, I would be so slow in the dish pit. He would come back there and help me, and then he would just tell me stories all the time. Then my boss Nick or my boss Ari would come up like, "What is going on here? Like, we got to go. These guys are just milking the clock." And those two guys, Nicholas and Aristotle, they took the chance on me to work there. And they never wanted me to quit. Like, there was times I did want to quit, and they pretty much said, "Where are you going to go? Where are you going and make this much money?" Like, I felt like I was just working a lot, and sometimes I thought I was working too hard, but honestly, I wasn't working hard enough. I'm very fortunate for having those two twin Greek guys who opened up Blue Pete's, because they didn't just show me they didn't show me just how to work in a restaurant. They showed me how to landscape, how to take care of a yard, and see how really beautiful life is, and not to be afraid to talk. These guys would love to talk about everything. I learned so much from them when I used to see them going up to tables and talking to all their customers and see how things were. If things were bad, they would pay it back. They would give things as a dessert or give them a gift card back. They never wanted to lose anybody as a customer, unless they were really truly an asshole, and they just, they can kick rocks at the same exact time. Excuse my language, but that's just what's so incredible, because when I saw that, and they were busy having to go behind the line and cook, I felt like I had to go ask and see how things were doing. And it wasn't my job to refill waters or anything, but I always wanted to make sure everyone had water. I want to make sure that, no one was waiting on anything. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, what are we all waiting on? But that's where you can learn so much from just working in a restaurant. You see so many different worlds. When I was bussing tables, I used to just take my time on certain tables and just clean them, because I love to listen and eavesdrop on other tables hearing their stories. They were just so fun to listen to. It was like watching TV at work. So if you haven't worked in a restaurant, I definitely recommend go working in one, because you're going to learn a lot about life from working in those places. And you're going to see a lot of people come and go, get frustrated, and you just kind of see the frustration. And sometimes you might not work in the right restaurant. I'm very fortunate that I found that one, and because God sent me to that place. That place saved me from the arguing, and it's crazy. There's a lot of things that people want to run away from, and they can't deal with it. But they might not be able to deal with it right now, but you can learn from it in the future. So there's that on that one. And my next job actually worked at a car dealership for almost 2 years at Priority Toyota in Greenbrier, Chesapeake. And I didn't really know anything about cars. I didn't know that Toyota was the number one car brand and the most reliable, dependable car on the road. There's a reason why they are. It's because, they learn from their mistakes, and you don't fix something that's not broken. Like, you look at a Toyota 4Runner, which is, I think, the best car on the road. That they just came out the newer model of a 4-cylinder twin turbo. But before that, they had a regular 6-cylinder that was in a 2012 Tacoma. That's been the same engine, or it was a 2011. And it was the same engine all the way up to, till now. And there's a reason why those cars go up to 1 million miles. You might think I'm crazy about saying, oh, they can go up to 1 million miles. Yes. So if you're actually a number one owner on a Toyota, if you don't know this, if you're a number one owner and you go up to 1 million miles, they will give you a free car of that trim level. And they will actually put that car in the showroom. So that's hilarious. One of the first days I worked at a Toyota dealership, my buddy Teddy Day, maybe I shouldn't have said his name, and my buddy Tim, we were talking about this one Tundra, that was up to 822,000 miles. I think it was a 2003, and that's crazy for a car to have that many miles on it. But the guy was like the third owner. So if he was the first owner, he would have driven all the way up to 1 million miles and got that free car. But it's just crazy how things you don't know until you really do the research or go work in that type of environment and learn from those things. Now, I was not the best car salesman because I was definitely really young. I was probably 22 when I first started there. And I learned a lot about negotiating. I had a lot of great teachers from my buddy Tom, Angel, Tony, Rob, Ron, Melinda, Dan. There was everybody in there. Everyone in there was so great, especially from learning from the salesmen, because we were like a happy family. And our GM, I want to just say his first name, Nick. He was really like a dad to everybody. He really took care of us. Like, he took care of me. He never wanted me to quit. He showed me one of the best life lessons in life, especially from working in a car dealership. And he didn't want me to go when I left to go get my real estate license. He was saying, like, you can just study here. Just go in here and just study all the time. And I knew myself. I can't be distracted. I knew I was probably going to fail that test multiple times, and I did. But I didn't quit. That's the biggest thing I learned from everything in life. You don't quit. And I think we should really help each other not quit either, if you really care, because those guys really cared about me. And I'm very fortunate that I had all those. I looked at them as Hall of Famers who sold cars. They've been around the block, and once you know when you know your way around, you know how to get around. That's what's so great, because you have to look at the world like it's a circle. And I do talk about this on my third podcast, so sorry if I repeat myself, but I didn't talk about like my jobs and everything. Whew. So there's that little rant right there. But, you just have to put yourself out there. You never know where you're going to be in life. Even at a job that you think that you're too good for. You're not too good for anything. People do jobs like that forever. Like, at the very end of the day, I would love to be a bartender still and own my own restaurant, just a small one, and just have fun. Being a bartender is so fun, talking to people, and also being a server. There's so many things that you can learn from those type of things, and you can make a lot of money in those places. Like, I made, when I was 15 or 16 years old, when I first started as a busser, I was making up to $80 to $100 in tips on the weekends a day, and I was making $5.50 an hour. So that adds up. Then my bosses actually raised up my hourly up to $9 an hour, and I was still getting tips. And a lot of these servers were mad because I was technically making more money than them. But my bosses were like, well, he's actually talking to your tables, refilling your waters, running out your food. You just have to go take the order. And, it's not that I was doing that to make more money than them. I wanted them to make more money also. I want to make sure that I didn't want to see anyone quit. I've seen a lot of people quit in a restaurant, and that happens. And especially if you see someone who has a lot of potential, you don't want to see them quit on a lot of things in life. And that's the biggest thing. Like, if you see potential in your own self, don't give up on yourself. That's the biggest thing, especially if you know that you can do it, but the only person that's stopping is you. That's what's so magical about life, because at the end of the day, you're going to die alone. You might end up finding someone that you love, but at the end of the day, it's just you going somewhere. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this. Hopefully you made it this far, especially because it does take me a little while to get started. After I worked in a restaurant and worked at the car dealership, I got my real estate license. I did that for 4.5 years. And, when you're in it for a little while, you kind of realize maybe this isn't the job for me. I thought you can't just keep yourself strapped down. You got to take chances. Like, when I moved from Virginia Beach to Jacksonville, Florida, I took a chance to really be all on my own and only know a few people here, which is my family. I left everyone back at home, all my friends, all my loved ones. That, I always said, you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends who you create the best family out of. So that's what's so incredible. But I had to get away from a lot of things because I was too comfortable. So when I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, I ended up starting up an insurance company with Goosehead Insurance. And if you know what Goosehead Insurance is, it's home and auto insurance. And it's hilarious because I never sold insurance before in my whole entire life. So it was very difficult for me in the very beginning, especially because, you don't want to underinsure somebody. But I thought it was going to be very easy because I lived in kind of both the worlds. I lived in, selling houses, also selling cars. So I thought you have those two things, and every day is a learning process, and it's very true. You learn every single day on a different type of policy. If you know anything about property casualty for home and auto insurance, it's a 200-hour class, and it's actually one of the hardest tests that you can take, especially in the state of Florida, because we have all these hurricanes, and you don't want to underinsure somebody. Obviously, you want to be honest with them and what's being covered. Some people just send them a quote and here you go, and you don't know that you don't even know you have full replacement costs on your roof, or if you don't have full replacement costs on your personal property. And I think that's what kind of separates me apart from a lot of people, because you have to really educate them. A lot of people don't even know anything about insurance, and I'm still learning every single day. And I learn from a lot of people who also own a Goosehead franchise, who are very successful, and they're killing it. I thought I could just do it all on my own, but once I started to branch out and talk to a lot of these owners and see what they would do, what they would do now if they just had to start all over. It's very incredible that there is a community out there that's still willing to help you and not looking at it as a giant competition. Because we're targeting lenders, realtors, inspectors. There's thousands of them out there. There's only so many insurance agents, and so many of them survive. So I think that's what's so kind of incredible about life and everything too. Because you just never know where you're going to end up. And when you're feeling like you're at the very bottom and you feel like you can't get out, sometimes you do have to raise up your hand and ask for help. So kind of going back to the school thing, you have to raise your hand and ask questions. That was my biggest problem in school, because I didn't want to ask a dumb question. I used to see people raise their hands and ask questions and get the things wrong, and the teachers would tell them why they got it wrong. And they actually did a lot better on the test than probably a lot of other people, because they weren't afraid to ask a dang question. That's what's so crazy. And, I think that we should really learn a lot from our elders. There's a lot of things that they went through in life that we can still learn from, especially from the Egyptian times and all these past history events. There's something there. There's a reason why there's a blank history. And then we had to start really all over again. And I don't want us to start all over. I want us to really keep on going and keep this engine going. And what do we have to do to fuel it? You know, like, do we got to put more oil on it so it doesn't squeak? You know, my dad always says, squeaky wheel gets the oil. And that's what you got to be. You got to be a squeaky wheel. You know, yeah. Let them know that you're there and let them know that, hey, you might need help. You know, like, I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of things wrong in life, and I appreciate that. You know, I learned a lot from my mistakes. And like I said before in my first podcast, my grandmother used to say this to people who were successful. Oh, you must have made a lot of mistakes. And that will always stick in my head because it's totally true. So don't be afraid to make a mistake. You know, it's going to happen. You can't learn an instrument right off the bat. You know, and most of the time you have to wait a while to come back to it and see what you really learned, because when you go to sleep, you create like this muscle memory. You relearn everything kind of. It was funny because when I tried to re-record this podcast, when I was re-listening to it, the second one, like I'm doing right now, I saw that there was a lot of mistakes in it. And then I started trying to record this at, midnight last night. And actually the lighting was actually perfect at midnight. But I was so tired. Now I felt like I was drunk almost with just how tired I was. And I was talking a lot the whole entire time, but then it just wasn't coming out clearly of the way how I wanted it to come out. And so I went to bed. I went to bed probably at 1:30. I just gave up. But I was not going to give up on this because I have to release this episode at 8 p.m. I told myself I was going to, so I'm going to. And it's funny how things happen because I go to bed and all these thoughts came to my head and I wrote them down. I'll read what I wrote down because I can't really stay on task of things, but it might not make a lot of sense. Like the grammar might not be there, but I know what it says in my eyes. So I wrote down, this podcast is for the talkbackers in the world. The ones who have been through a lot and are now ready to talk back about it. I believe we have a lot of people in this world who have listened to a lot of things, and we can speak a lot of value to really show the world that we really care. We can't be afraid to speak our minds, even when we think we're in the wrong, because we are wrong. Because when we are wrong, we can own up to it and learn from it all, from all the mistakes. So don't be afraid to call me out as me. If I make some mistakes, don't be afraid to call me out. If I repeat a lot of things, tell me like, okay, we've heard this 1,000 times, but going back to this. So don't be afraid to call me out because I'm not afraid to be wrong, because I really want to know the right answers in life. If we all can do that, then this podcast is going to be a lot of fun. For the ones who have listened, and ready to talk back, this is really for you. And this is for me also. So we have to be like an eagle and relearn to fly. Even though an eagle knows how to fly, but like sometimes you have to really know that you can fly. Know that it's okay that you do have to start all over, because that eagle did. That eagle, for it to survive, it had to break off its beak and break off the nails if it wanted to keep on going. And if something's on your back, it's okay. You just got to keep on going higher up, because I think crows go on eagles, and what the eagle will do is it'll just keep on flying higher and higher and higher until that thing can't be any higher anymore, because sometimes they can't breathe the same oxygen that you're breathing. So there are going to be, there are these hecklers. They're always going to be pecking at your head, and, we need to learn from those things. And that's what I really believe in. I've had multiple dogs, and I learned a lot from every single dog. And every dog gets better and better because I see a lot of the previous dogs in the next dog I get. And I learned a lot from them, And I've even had to give in, some of them away. And the one before I have now, Groot, I had a dog named Norman. And he was, in my eyes, I felt like I could go on through the worst breakups and the worst things in life, but I could come home and see that dog and everything would be fine. He was a blue Merle Australian Shepherd with one blue eye, one brown eye. And he was my best friend. And I could have been the most craziest guy at some of these parties I brought him to when I used to visit one of my ex-girlfriends when she went to school at Radford, Virginia. And that dog was like the mascot there. It was hilarious because, like I said, I could have been the weirdest guy, but I was the coolest guy because I had this dog. And that's just what's so funny about it. Like, this dog was awesome. We would walk around the campus in Radford, and I would have him off leash and have my, the leash that retracts and comes back. I would have that in my hand. And this one college professor said, "You got to have that dog on a leash." I put it up in the air. I said, "It's wireless." And he was like, "Oh, no way. That's so cool." I was like, "Yeah." And I just kept on walking. But, that was a lie, but it was for me to get away with something. And sometimes you can't get away from every lie you tell. And everyone lies, but I don't want to do that anymore. I really want to tell the God's honest truth about everything. And I really believe if we bring back the proper morals of what it says, like on the dollar bill, "In God's we trust," the 10 Commandments is pretty much like the Constitution it's based on those values. So, yeah, I don't know. You might not agree with a lot of things I say, but hopefully you agree with some of them. And that's what this is all about. So I really appreciate everyone who tuned in and who made it this far. And if you did, share this podcast. If someone's out there that needs to be heard or they want to learn about things in life, then please share it to them, because let them know that they're not alone. And that's what this is really about, because I know I'm not alone out there, and that's why I'm starting this. So like and share and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. This is Tuesday, so this is coming out tonight at 8 p.m. So, and I'm just going to post it. I'm going to post every single one that I do, besides the last one I did, because the audio was terrible. It just sounded terrible. But the third one's really good. You should definitely check it out. And that one, it really talks about the balance of life. And I think we can really create a balance of, the good things that we learned and the bad things that we learned, and we can all come together and create that real flower of life. Ooh, sorry if you heard my stomach growl. It's I like to fast up to throughout the day. I try not to eat past 11 a.m. because, well, I'll tell you about it another time. You can think about that, and you can maybe look up later. Why should I not eat till after 11 a.m. or around 1 p.m. Sometimes I don't eat till 5 p.m. because I feel like that we should really not eat so much. If we looked at the caveman times, they didn't have refrigerators. When they ate something, they ate it right away. When they killed a woolly mammoth, they were able to feed 4,000 people from one woolly mammoth. So there's a lot of things I've learned in life, and I'm excited to really branch out and show people these things. So thank you guys again. Sorry it took so long to say bye. See ya. Have a great one.